exactly what I predicted 5-6 years ago, Brian, is happening. The market's moving towards the middle, and we're going to see a consolidation phase now. We're going to see a phase of consolidation of wholesalers and flippers. There's going to be more regional players, I think. There's going to be a consolidation of real estate brokerages happening, I think, over the next decade. And you're going to see a consolidation of retail and wholesale coming together, I think, more in this next 5 years than ever in the last 50 years, of agents having to be investors and investors having to be agents.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Trevor Mauch. What's going on, man?
Brian, what's up, dude? We were talking before we hit record. It's been a good bit, but it's fun to be back with you, man.
Most of you probably already know Trevor, but any of you don't, Trevor owns Carrot.com, so the Carrot Marketplace. Trevor, why don't you give everybody a little bit of background on how you got into this space and like what you're into now?
Dude, so high level, I'll kind of start where we are because it always helps with context. So high level, we work with about 7,000 investors or / agents or hybrids. Hybrids are our favorite right now. We'll talk about why and why it's so critical in the market to become a hybrid, not just an investor or an agent. But we help clients generate a lot of leads. It's the off-market properties for the most part. It's people who are going to Google, typing up something, or they're on Facebook and they're browsing, and you get them to the right website or what we call a lead generation hub that builds trust, credibility, converts. And you help you attract the best leads. So if you're to Google like sell my house fast, enter any city in the country, or cash home buyers, or anything a motivated house seller is going to search, you're probably going to find between 3 and 8 of page 1 results in Google or Carrot site. So some of the data we're going to be bringing today is based off of the wide reach that we've got. But dude, at a high level, kind of going way back, the Cliff Notes version of it is got started in real estate investing when I was 21 in college. Literally Carlton sheets, infomercial. My dad bought the course for me, or he bought the course, and he knew I was interested in real estate when I was in college. And he said, you don't have to pay the $500 back to me if you use the course to go buy a property in the next 12 months. If you don't actually buy a property using this course, then you got to pay me the $500. And I didn't have the $500. So I had to really, really think about it. In that last 3 months of the year, I bought a 4-unit apartment building near the college I went to. No money down, 21-year-old guy, no credit, no money in the bank, nothing. And it cash flowed from day one. Still have that property today. It's an amazing property. And I took that knowledge and I just started acquiring commercial properties for the most part, a couple Airbnbs over the years. And what I'm most passionate about, man, is marketing. How can we deliver value to somebody in a way that solves their problem and brings them towards my solution or our client solutions? And so that's what we've done for the past 10 years now with Carrot, is helping our clients bring in millions and millions and millions of leads, mostly motivated seller leads.
Now, let me ask you this. If your dad didn't give you a 12-month deadline, you think you would have pulled the trigger still? He's just like, you got to buy a property sometime?
No, yeah, probably not. I mean, the deadline is amazing, right? Yeah, whether it's you working solo as a business, give yourself a deadline, y'all. Brian, one thing that I learned over the years after that, and I still do it today, is every single year I do what I call making a contract with myself. So going into the new year, I always do like a 1 or 2 day personal retreat. I'm going to go plan for the day, think about where I want to go in my life this next year, where I want to get better at. Think about business. And then every year I go, am I ready to sign up for another year in this company or whatever it is that I'm focused on? I always have a long-term vision for the company in my life, but every year I say, am I ready to commit for another year? And I will not stop that commitment during the year. So y'all use those deadlines, use the dates, use the commitments, whatever it is. But there's something powerful about the 12 months when you're starting something new.
You know what? That's so true too. Because I'm the same way. It's like, if you pick it for the year, it's like it now has to happen.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, you can decide, okay, are we done or do we keep going?
Yeah, because emotions start to slip in. Like that's the problem that happens with this, whether we're buying leads or generating leads or whatever too, right? Emotions slip in if we don't set a boundary to say, these are the boundaries that are going to give me the most success. And I'm going to not quit until I hit that. I mean, we can talk about what those boundaries may be for paid marketing, but in business, man, if we're saying I'm going to try out this PPC thing or try out this SEO thing or try out this pay-per-lead thing, it's probably not going to work for you because you're already going in with no real commitment to give it the try that it needs. And you're probably going to give up the second it gets hard. Or if you're going, I'm going to try this wholesaling thing, or I'm going to try this whatever. The second it gets hard, 3 months in, you're going to go back to what was comfortable, unless you've got that 12-month commitment to keep working through it.
And I'm going to jump into a different question here first. But
Yep.
when you go on this retreat, like you're talking about, do you do that by yourself? Or you take your family? Or?
Yeah, it's by myself. Yeah, this year it's on December 1st to Friday. And I'm going to go up in the mountains, a place where there's no internet and no cell phone signal at Steamboat Inn. I think, I took you guys up there. I took you and Chad at Steamboat. We had lunch outside that one day. And I go up there by the river, whip out my notepad and my computer and just start typing away.
Awesome. All right, cool. I like it. That's a cool place too.
It is.
All right. So you haven't done your 12 months for next year, so we don't know what's coming yet.
One thing I do probably, 2-3 months before the year starts, I pull up my Apple Notes, and every time something pops up, I just capture it in my, in for this case, 2024 note there. So when I go up to the mountains, I've got all my notes of ideas that I captured. We haven't started yet.
Awesome. So what do you see happening in the market right now? And how are people pivoting?
Let's kind of go back 4 or 5 years. Okay. So 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even longer, this is probably 7 years ago, we were 100% focused on investors, right? 100% focused on wholesalers, flippers, land investors, note investors, but primarily house wholesalers and flippers. And we were seeing a dynamic. Like, so this is probably, if I had to guess, maybe 2018 or so. We're seeing a dynamic where the market was starting to adjust a little bit. And we were seeing some more people say, hey, investing or wholesaling is a little bit more challenging for me right now. I'm going to go be an agent again. So they were agents previously. They had their license, but then it was insanely hard to sell houses in a period of time from 2012 through, let's say, 2017 or so. So the smart ones went over to the investing side. But then as the market started to unlock a little bit more, interest rates were reasonable, they saw an easier opportunity listing houses. So we over and over again in that time period, we were seeing more people do both. Okay. We didn't have a name for a hybrid before then. And we were asking the question like, well, is it truly a different business strategy? There's an agent or an investor, and everyone treated it as completely different, right? People treated it as different industries. They're anti each other. Agents didn't like the house flippers and wholesalers, the off-market guys and gals. And the off-market guys and gals didn't like the agents. And in general, there are obviously a lot of exceptions. In general, they butted heads, and each one said the other party didn't know what they were talking about, right? Wholesalers say agents don't know what they're talking about. They only know how to do one thing, one trick ponies. They just list properties. They say what we're doing is illegal. It's not true. And then agents say what wholesalers and everyone's doing over here is illegal. You can't do that. You're acting like an agent. And so that honestly has been the dynamic for decades. What we started to see, though, is when technology comes into any industry. So we can go back to the stock world or newspapers, or we can go back to, the mortgage side of things or travel. Anytime the inefficiency in a market is caught up by technology that can make that inefficiency efficient again, then the market starts to transform. Now, when you look at booking travel, that one was way easier for technology to be able to solve that, right? It wasn't as hard of a solve to have someone go and search up travel options and then be able to be delivered them on an Expedia.com, as an example. But when you look at even the stock market in the 1980s, there's a big economic meltdown, stock crash, a commercial real estate meltdown in the late 80s. And out of that came regulation, deregulation in some areas, and technology had caught up with that inefficiency of, if I wanted to trade a stock, I had to pick up the phone and call a stockbroker. Like, there wasn't a spot online I could go to trade the deal. I think it was 1987 or 86, the stock market crashed and melted down. Everyone's picking up, trying to call their broker. Brokers aren't picking up the phone and answering because everyone's calling them. And they're just going, I don't know what to do. And regulation happened from that. And then people said, this is BS. We can't do this anymore. Some smart people said, well, technology now is here where I can make this efficient. We're going to start Charles Schwab. We're going to start eTrade.com. And it changed the industry, right? Real estate's just the hardest transaction that's out there because it takes two parties. It's a very sophisticated transaction at the end of the day. There's recordings of deeds. It's usually a big number. It's not just $500 or something. And there's just been this entrenched monopoly on selling real estate with NAR, with the National Association of Realtors, for decades. And so 6-7 years ago, you started to see the iBuyers pop up. I remember, Brian, This was probably, I mean, I've got screenshots of it, but it's probably 2017, maybe 2016. I remember seeing Zillow launch a web page that was basically like what we've been doing for years: sell your house and get an offer. Then they would pull it down. It'd be up for 2 months in one market, and they'd pull it down. And we're going, okay. And they were the first ones we saw do that at scale. We're going, okay, Zillow is seeing what we're seeing, and they're going to go in and make offers on properties. Then Open Door came up, OfferPad came up, a lot of those technology solutions came up, right? So here's where I'm going with this, is I wanted to set the stage for why we're in where we are right now. Because what most people think about, Brian, is they're thinking about the today or the this week. Instead, we have to go look at the macro. We have to say, no, let's look at history. Let's look at industry after industry. What transformations happen in the industries, and what can we learn from those industries and apply it to real estate so we know what's next? Most people aren't doing that. Most people are just looking at the today or this week, and they're going to get outplayed. They're playing a game of checkers. Well, they need to be playing a game of chess like we are. And so technology caught up, and we started to see that acceleration of the seller, in this case, demand more options. Where before the seller would just be like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, you're my only option. I don't know any other way to sell this house other than FSBO, and I don't want to do FSBO, where I tried it and it didn't work. But now you have these iBuyers come out, and the iBuyers were overpaying for some of those properties. They were doing massive marketing and branding, driving awareness and legitimacy to direct cash offer purchases of real estate, where before it was always this weird thing down here where people were saying, is this even legal? Even the sellers were thinking about that. So technology and funding had caught up with the inefficiency that the traditional retail market has had. And so now here's where the opportunity and the challenge is. Okay. So you have the well-funded iBuyers in the middle, and then you have the wholesalers and agents, wholesalers, flippers, and agents over here saying, oh my gosh, we don't want to, but we're forced to go towards the middle now. We're forced to, as a wholesaler, actually not just make an offer at 65 or 80 cents on the dollar, and if it doesn't fit it, leave and say they're not serious. No, we're forced to say, let's talk to that seller and actually determine what their problem is. And 80% plus actually want retail. Why don't I just take those and list those, or partner with an agent and list those, and have that be a new income stream for me and actually solve more sellers' problems? Or the agents have to come in and say, everything can't look like this little pretty box of a listing. All the hoarder houses that they were passing up, and the houses with foundation repair issues, and the houses that were complicated transactions with heirs in 3 different states, and all those things they would just pass up, when those are actually the biggest opportunities that they could have had income-wise, and they could have served those people well, right? So that's where we are right now. We're in the middle of that. And the big brokerages, like I was speaking at XPCon, their big national event about a month ago, and exactly what I predicted 5-6 years ago, Brian, is happening. The market's moving towards the middle, and we're going to see a consolidation phase now. We're going to see a phase of consolidation of wholesalers and flippers. There's going to be more regional players, I think. There's going to be a consolidation of real estate brokerages happening, I think, over the next decade. And you're going to see a consolidation of retail and wholesale coming together, I think, more in this next 5 years than ever in the last 50 years, of agents having to be investors and investors having to be agents. And that's actually a good thing for everybody. It's good for the sellers. It's good for you as an investor, because you can serve more people and actually make more money, not throw good leads away. It's good for agents, because now they're able to serve more sellers, solve more difficult problems, and make more money on those deals. It's amazing. So I'll finish it with this, and I'll toss it back over to you. Then the question is, well, what are you talking about, Trevor, and how's this relevant to me? Number one, the business model is changing. So if you're only looking at things as a wholesaler today and you're driving Google pay-per-click leads, 80% of those leads want retail. And I hear a lot of people all the time complaining about it. I'm going, you know who would kill for those leads? If you get 100 seller leads and 80 of them want retail, and you're complaining that 80 want retail, you know who would kill for those leads? Agents would kill for those leads. They're trying every single day to get those leads. Partner with an agent, become an agent, list those, do something to make profit from those. That's what's going to help. One of the things that's going to help you wade through a difficult market. The next thing on it, Brian, that we can dig into data, is I see more than ever right now what you and I have been driving for years of inbound marketing. The highest quality leads coming to you is more important now than ever. There's ebb and flow marketing that happens, and it's outbound marketing usually, right? When you're in a market like, let's say, Chicago, and everyone and their dog starts sending the same direct mail piece out, what eventually happens is that direct mail piece goes from crushing it to now all of a sudden the market's saturated because every investor is using the same list and every seller is stacked 35 postcards and letters. The response rates go down. So what do people do next? They say, man, my response rates go down where usually I could send out 3,000 direct mail pieces and get a deal. Now I'm sending out 5 or 10. Let me now find a new marketing method. I'm going to do cold calling now. Okay, cold calling, gangbusters for a while. All of a sudden now people stop answering their phones because the sellers are on the same list. They're getting the same 14 phone calls a day. They go, hey, I'm going to start text messaging now. Right. And so it's these ebb and flow. So your cold calling response rates go down. So then text message crushes it up here. And every single time there's an outbound interruption-based marketing piece like that, and it gets abused, you're going to find some way that the government makes it challenging. And we're finding right now text message marketing, it's not irrelevant, but I think it's fast becoming that. And that's something guys like you and I have been calling for years. But when we focus on inbound marketing and getting in front of the most motivated and highest quality leads, that's something that's only going to get better over time. And some exciting opportunities right now.
That's a lot to think about there too, because I know our top clients are the guys that can give cash offers and also are licensed or do novations or something. Like they're doing multiple dispos. If you're trying to help sellers, you kind of need to be, because every seller has a problem. You have to be able to fix it for them, or at least try,
Exactly. And that's the thing, guys. I think as real estate investors, when a market's going up, everyone looks like a genius when a market's going up, right? So in 2021, when people were starting in that market, or I have my high level program called Epic, where I'm working with like our biggest customers. And I talked with 2 or 3 last week on one-on-ones. And a lot of investors are experiencing the same darn thing. Agents are too, where they're having a tough year this year. Not everybody, right? Many people are having their best year, but a lot of people who crushed it in 2021, they were doing 6 million that year or $1.5 million or whatever it was with high margins. And then they hired a couple people, and then the market got a little bit tougher because they didn't pivot and adjust. They're having harder years this year, and they're going, okay, I'm breaking even now at $1.5 million in revenue. When I made $1.5 million 2 years ago, I netted $500K. How do I wade through this? I'm having a harder time in this one single market. What do I need to do? And people need to be entrepreneurs and business people, not just marketers or not just biz op people, business opportunity people. And when we're in a market like today, we have to truly have an integrated strategy for how we're going to not just find the leads, which is what you and I help people do, but once you get the lead, how am I structuring my business to be most successful to serve those leads? So that's your hybrid strategy. But also, we're finding more and more it's insanely relevant to expand out of just one market. Where several years ago, people would just heavily dive into one market and still be able to get to 2, 3, 4 million a year in that one market if they hit it hard. Now you can still do that. 100% can still do that. But we're finding that more and more people are choosing to say, well, I've mastered this marketing method, rather than me now going into direct mail or cold calling or text message marketing to be able to expand in this market. I'm going to take my PPC or SEO and just move to the next market, move to the next state. And so it's really being strategic with your moves to keep growing in this market.
Now you're saying move to the next state, like move locations, or adding on the other like hybrid strategy?
For me, I'll give you an example. I was talking with a guy named Marco yesterday. He's about a $2 million a year wholesaling business, him and a few people down in Florida. He's been crushing it on Google pay-per-click, getting a massive ROI. He's getting some pretty good ROI on SEO. But unless he's willing to do outbound marketing, which he doesn't want to do that's what he was all based on before. It was all cold calling and direct mail. And he's like, I got deals that way, man. But we have to talk to 3, 4, 5 times more sellers. 3, 4, 5 times more sellers to get the same amount of deals. And he said, I just found the inbound works better for me. So for him, if he wants to continue to expand, he's literally now starting up marketing in a different city. So he's got these 3 cities in his kind of nexus over here that got him to the couple million. But now he's targeting 4 or 5 other cities in North Florida as an example, to then add the next 1 million or 2 million to it. Yeah. So just being able to create the systems in the business so you can work with people that aren't just in your local area can be a real advantage.
Yeah, and you're right. And then building the systems too, like if you have the processes, you can kind of replicate a lot easier than the guys that are just shooting from the hip.
Yep, 100%.
It's really important. Like if you're a one-man show and you want to get bigger, like start creating processes, write them down, train people so you can replicate yourself.
Exactly. And that's one thing this is about 3 months ago. I was sitting in the coffee shop and I do a lot of drawing now. All my like drawn frameworks and stuff like that. I'm cranking out new ones every week for our highest level clients. And I came up with this one matrix. I could probably even pull it up if it made sense, but I walked through every step along the way with the threes and the tens, 100,000, $0 in revenue to 100,000, 100,000 to 300,000, 100,000 to a million to three, 3 to 10, 10 to 30 and above. At each stage, you hit these things I call pain lines. So when I'm working with a lot of our clients and they're stuck at 1.2 million in revenue, it's because they haven't learned to do certain things as a leader. You're not going to get to 3 if you can't truly build systems. You need to be a builder at that phase, 1 to 3. Like you're saying, Brian, build processes, build systems, backfill people to replace you in the areas that drain your energy, but make your company money. And you're not going to get to 3 without doing that. I'm working with a guy who's stuck right now at 3 million in revenue. And his problem isn't that he can't hire people. He's hired people. He's got a big team. He doesn't have leaders in this team. So he's like the guy just running in 1,000 directions, trying to patch this operation all day long. And he's wondering, why can I never get over 5 to get to 10? He has a goal to get to 10. He's going to be stuck at 3 to 4 forever until he can master that skill set as a leader to build a leadership bench who are taking on and owning marketing and sales and acquisitions or whatever it is that they're doing. But every single revenue level, the 3s and 10s, it's a different skill set as a leader, a different strategy to be able to scale, and honestly, a different identity that we have to adopt as well. It's pretty fun.
Everyone listening, go back and listen to that again. That's gold right there. 'Cause even me, like, you know how fast we're growing. It's like you're in different phases. Like I'm different right now than I was last year, and you have to learn those things, like leadership, things like that. Like you have to learn how to do those things. It just doesn't come to you unless you're naturally good at it,
Yep. And most of us aren't, right? Like that's why they're pain lines, is because once we hit those spots, the 3s and 10s in revenue, things get hard and we start to second guess things. We start to say, well, man, should I even be doing this? 3 things usually come up when we hit those pain lines. So if you're listening to this right now and you got to 100,000 a year in revenue, but you're kind of stuck at 140, you're stuck at 180 and you're wondering why. And you kind of hit that and you're staying there, maybe even went backwards a little bit and your motivation's down many weeks in a row. And you're asking the question, man, should I even be doing this? There's 3 things that happen. We sabotage. Okay. So we inadvertently do things that sabotage our success to get to the next level because we feel that by doing more of those things, it's going to equal more pain. So an example, let's say you're stuck at 1.2 million, like a guy I was talking to last year. And that's a great place to be stuck, right? $1 million a year business. But he wanted to grow and he was stuck at that spot. And when you're stuck at any of those phases, we tend to just continue doing the thing that got us there. We say these things worked to get us there. This marketing, this way of leading, this way of hiring, this way of having my business, this way of thinking got us there. But as Einstein says, the level of thinking that got you into that challenge is not the level of thinking that will get you out. And so if you find that you're continually butting up against this thing and life is hard, he was self-sabotaging over and over and over again. He was getting these leads coming in because I was analyzing what was the matter with his funnel. Was it his close ratio? No, close ratio was good. Was it that he wasn't getting leads? No, he was getting plenty of leads. Was it that he wasn't getting a good ROI, a 3 to 1 or 4 to 1 ROAS on his ad spend? No, he was getting a great ROAS. What was happening was he was taking those leads and he was avoiding even getting on the phone and scheduling meetings with people to actually go meet with them to close them, because he knew that was going to create more work in the back end that he had to do, or he had an assistant helping them with, but that assistant wasn't doing well because she wasn't trained well. And he's like inadvertently sabotaging. He stopped making those phone calls. They were just sitting there dying on the vine. Another thing that happens, Brian, I know I'm taking this call in a direction that we didn't expect.
I like it though. This is important stuff.
Yeah. So another thing that happens when we hit those pain lines and we find ourselves, like I said, being more energy drained on a week over week basis than not, we find ourselves getting distracted, right? We're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a real estate coach now, or I'm looking at all these other opportunities because you want something new. You want to go back to what's comfortable 3-4 stages ago in your business where you knew how to do that. I knew how to start a business, right? And you're trying to avoid what's uncomfortable, which is growing through your current pain line. And what we do is we basically slip back to what's comfortable. Okay, so the first thing is self-sabotage. Second thing is we slip back to what's comfortable. And so you go, well, this is where we start to justify. I don't know, like I'm doing pretty darn good, like, $500,000 a year, just it was better. I'm just going to go back to that stage. It was just me and my wife, or it was just me and just me and this assistant and these 3 or 4 people on my team. It's just kind of complicated. Maybe I listened to some advice that wasn't right for me. I'm going to go back to what's comfortable. Okay. And you can do that. That's a real choice you can make. And that's a viable choice. Right. But the challenge is you're always now going to be stuck at that phase. You're never going to learn how to grow through that, as an example, 1 million to 3 million phase, and truly learn how to delegate the right next things, truly learn how to grow as a leader. You're going to be stuck forever. And so what people think is by switching businesses or getting distracted to this new opportunity, it fixes things. No, the next time you hit that same pain line at 1 million, or you might be stuck at 900,000, 1.1 or 1.3 or whatever it is, and you're wondering why you're stuck again. It's because you didn't put your head down and say, I'm going to go for uncomfortable and learn how to grow through this pain line. Okay. Instead, you slip back to what's comfortable. The third thing that happens, Brian, is we sell. Okay. We go, man, I've got this great operation coming in and making a few $100,000 in revenue. This is worth something to somebody. Let me go sell this company because I'm not passionate about it anymore. And instead of innovating within our company and finding a new way to grow and have that fuel us to grow as a person, that be the challenge for the business, not making more money, because you're always going to justify and say, well, I don't need more money now. I've got my basic needs covered, right? If we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the very bottom of it is food, water, shelter. Okay. Once we get food, water, shelter taken care of, those needs are gone. The motivation now driven by the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is gone, right? We're all motivated by needs first, starting with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then once we get food, water, shelter taken care of, then it's safety. Okay, you can have a house and water and food, but let's say you're in a neighborhood now where there's a lot of drug deals happening. You don't feel safe for your family. Your motivation is going to be get your family out of that situation. It's not to make 12 million bucks. Just let me get out of this neighborhood. So now let's say you got out of the neighborhood. You have safety as well. Now it's belonging. I want to actually belong in a group of people, have friendships, and like what the Japanese call moai, people who we're able to hang out with and do life with. And then at the top is self-actualization, where a lot of people get stuck, Brian, myself included, over the years, is we don't know how to switch from need-based motivation to want-based motivation. We don't know how to switch from need to want. And where people are at that spot where they're $1 million a year or 800,000 a year, they've got their needs covered, and then they're hitting this pain line. What's the thing that happens? We justify and say, I don't need any more. So therefore, I'm going to get distracted and go back to what's comfortable. Instead, what we have to do as entrepreneurs, I feel, is we have to shift to want-based motivation and say, what do I want for my life? What do I want in this world? And I can be okay with wanting something. What do I want for myself? How do I want to grow? And how do I use this business as the best personal growth tool in the world? When things get hard, that's a good sign, because it means you're about ready to grow if you're ready for it.
And you know what? Even with what we're talking about, the hybrid approach, like you got to get uncomfortable if you're a wholesaler. If you need to start offering cash offers, partnering up with the people, doing JV deals, things like that. Like most people don't like change unless you do. But
exactly. And that's the opportunity that we have, right? I mean, adopting a new marketing source, trying pay-per-lead or pay-per-click or Carrot, whatever it is anytime there's something new like that, and it requires of you to learn something new or adopt a new mindset with it, it's going to be harder at the first. If you buy 20 leads from Brian and Chad, and you don't get a deal in the first 20 leads, buy another 20, right? It's like pop that deal, and then it's going to pay for all those leads you'd already purchased. And then it's going to fund your next probably 50 leads or 100 leads purchased. So step into it, but remove the emotion and use math as your friend when you're doing the marketing stuff.
Now, Trevor, because we're about out of time, but I want to ask you this. On the hybrid model, are you seeing a lot of investors initiating that in their marketing messages too? Or is it more the strategy after they get the motivated seller?
This is a good question. So for years, people would have like a completely separate website, completely separate message. And what we've been discovering and driving for, let's say, the last 2 to 3 years is hybrid is a seller acquisition strategy. That's it. It's a seller acquisition strategy. And you use one single message. And the one single message that we found works the best tends to be hey, get an offer on your house, right? It's get that cash offer or whatever it is, because that's ultimately what people are wanting. No one wants to list their house. If you interviewed 100 people and they're all honest with it, 100 out of 100 would choose and prefer to get a cash offer that they deemed fair than list the house. 100 out of 100 would. So we always have to move with what's in their mind, what conversation is going through their mind. I need to sell my house. It'd be pretty cool if I can get an offer on this thing. And that way I can see what it's worth for these people. Now, once that lead comes in, you then work with the person to see their motivation level. What are their challenges? What are their problems? What are those pain points they're experiencing? And then you can deliver to them the solutions that can help them with that. Yeah. So it's market the message. Hey, sell that house quickly, and we can help you do that. And we can even help you get the most money in your pocket. But talk to us. Once we talk to you, we'll be able to show you the different options.
It's cool. And I know you guys have basically like the pre-built sites for wholesalers, like cash offers, and realtors, but you also have a hybrid template for people to use, right?
Yep, we're revamping that right now, actually, because some of the things that we've been learning. The short of it is essentially the hybrid template and the motivated seller template are probably like, they're going to be merging even more as far as how similar they are. The main difference is on a motivated seller template that is someone who's not an agent. It says things that are not anti-agent, but it clearly says, hey, we're not an agent. We're not going to list your house. Right. The hybrid template kind of more, it doesn't have that language. It just mainly talks about the challenge, how you're going to help them avoid the challenges of a traditional sale and things like that. So, but it's still 97% the same message between the two.
Right. Because everyone wants to do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Sell their house.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Cool. What's the easiest way to get a hold of you or check out what you guys got, Trevor?
Carrot.com is probably the easiest spot, or we have our podcast, Carrotcast. Or third spot on IG, I answer all my Instagram messages directly over there, trevor.mauch. That's Mauch. Brian's been on the Carrotcast several times, guys, so go check that out as well. But at the end of the day, man, I think we're in an amazing spot for investors and agents where if you're having challenges right now, and let's say you're getting leads and your lead to deal ratios are down a little bit, which a lot of people, you have to get a little bit more leads to get those deals today. We're going to see things slingshot back, I think, over the next 8 to 12 months, where the people who are in front of prospects consistently, who are building that trust, building that credibility, building, the brand in front of people, you're going to be the ones who all that seller demand when it's ready to pounce, you're going to be in front of them. And so even if you're not getting your ROIs you want to on a marketing channel, you're getting 2-to-1, or you're breaking even on a marketing channel, keep it going through this season. Get those retargeting ads cranking. Get the data in your favor on the Google Ads side of things. Get your SEO cranking, because we are going to see things snap back in a really good way. And those who are consistent through this phase are going to be the ones who win.
And I'll vouch for Carrot too. I talk to a lot of investors. If you're new in a space, you can set up a website in like 2 seconds. It's super easy. And if you're seasoned, the thing I like about Carrot is it's always up to date. You don't have your website getting hacked. You don't have slow websites, things like that. So if you don't have a website, or if you're looking to add on another one to test out some things, just check them out, carrot.com. Trevor, what's the top book you recommend at the moment?
Top book I'm absolutely loving. I just finished it, but 10X is easier than 2X. Dan Sullivan. I can't remember, was it Benjamin Hardy's the actual author, but it's Dan Sullivan's concepts. Yeah. 10X is easier than 2X, dude. Such a great book.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
Likewise, man. And guys, if you're a Carrot customer, you might not realize you can work directly with Brian, motivated leads, everything they do. They integrate really, really well with Carrot. So reach out to Brian, work with him if you haven't. Tons of our clients work with you guys. So thanks for taking care of our clients. It's been fun to work with you over the years, man.
Sure thing, man. We're just making win-wins over here.
That's right. That's right.
All right, guys. Hey, well, thanks everyone for listening. Until next time, get out there, crush it, close some deals. We'll see you guys.
Heck yeah. Thanks, guys.